Wow, did this just take the PS5 3D audio headset throne? What's going on, everybody? It's Pixelated. You know I've been a big proponent of maximizing the 3D audio feature provided by Sony's PlayStation 5, mainly because they built an entire engine around it, the Tempest audio engine, that's supposed to revolutionize the way we experience console gaming audio in ways we couldn't even imagine. Or probably just ways we could hear through our ears. And I've tested quite a few headphones on this channel just to see which takes best advantage of Sony's proprietary audio engine. If you've been watching this channel for a while now, you know that the SteelSeries Arctis 7P has been comfortably sitting on that throne. The 7P Plus also for a shorter period of time because it was released just recently, and for good reason. But is today the day they get dethroned? Well, to answer that question, we're taking a look at a gaming headset known only as the Kaira Pro for PS5, made by, well, Razer, the company that is so unbelievably gamer-centric that as soon as you hear the name, the only thing that comes to your mind is RGB. And as we all know, nothing describes the stereotypical gamer more than those three iconic letters. And if you're wondering, yes, this headset has RGB as well. What makes this headset so special? Well, here's the thing. While many other gaming headsets attempt to provide the best audio performance they can on the PS5, none of them really seem to try to match the aesthetic of the PS5 the way the SteelSeries Arctis 7P and Sony's own Pulse 3D headset have. Which leads me to believe that because Razer did that with this headset, that this headset was designed from the ground up to perform well on the PS5. But the aesthetic conformity is not all that they attempted to do. It's not just about the aesthetics. This is the first headset designed exclusively for the PS5 with haptic feedback built into it. It's known as Razer's Hypersense, and maybe you've seen the promo images, maybe you haven't, but it shows all these gamers playing with the headset on, and you see all these giant ripples on their skin as if your face is just gonna vibrate the entire time you're playing with this headset on. I really doubt it's gonna end up looking like that. I mean, that would just look ridiculous. I don't think anyone would buy this if they knew that's what was happening to their face. Maybe if you captured in slow-mo you might see something, but in real life, it probably doesn't look like that. I know, all this sounds nuts, so let's see if any of this makes for a better gaming headset. But before we do that, feel free to glide on over to that like button if you happen to enjoy the video at any point, spew some RGB on that subscribe button for more videos, and hit that heavy attack on the noti bell so you don't miss out on future videos. Now let's get back to the review. Okay, starting off with the comfort, when you look at the headband of this headset, it's a pretty standard design. You can tell they didn't take any real chances out here with this. It's close to the least innovative design. Name a music headphone or any other gaming headphone, majority of them will use a similar design to this. We've actually got a padded fabric underneath instead of padded leather, so kudos to them for actually attempting to use fabric in some way, shape, or form. Most headsets would use padded leather over here, so you would have cushioning with a leather overlay instead of fabric. This allows for a little more breathability, and I'm sure it helps your head feel a little bit cooler, so this is definitely a good feature. Now, while this is a standard headband, I do feel like they have figured something out with this, because when I wear this, it's actually really comfortable. The headband itself is made entirely of plastic. It's got a bit of flex to it, and I think the reason why it feels so comfortable is just because it's so light. So as soon as I put it on, I don't really feel anything on my head. I have had other headsets that have just a headband and some cushioning, and I tend to feel it on my head. For whatever reason, I don't feel this, and I think it's because of the weight or lack thereof. It's very lightweight, and it's definitely, this fabric definitely helps instead of having leather. Another thing that makes this headset really insanely comfortable is just how padded these ear cups are. And not only are they padded, while they have a leather seal around them, they're actually fabric on top. So it actually manages to keep your ears very breathable. You don't get a lot of moisture buildup, but the leather or pleather or leatherette, whatever you want to call it, it's synthetic leather. It helps seal some of the noise, so there's not a lot of sound leak. With fabric ear cups, with entirely fabric ear cups, you will notice that there's a lot of sound leaking out, and people will tend to hear what you're playing if they're close by. With these, although there is a little bit of fabric, because of this leather here, some of that noise still gets blocked out. Now, while this headset design doesn't beat the elevated headset design when it comes to comfort, I will say this: it has one big benefit that I really enjoy, and that is that it doesn't take up a lot of space around your head, which means that if you like playing with your headset on, sometimes putting your hood on, if you're going in beast mode, these ear cups are a little puffy, so they might get in the way, but a lot of the time, you can just pull one of these and you're good to go. Do I like gaming with my hood on? sometimes, you know, sometimes you just want to be comfortable, and just like sometimes it just gets cold up here in Canada and you just want to keep warm, you want to feel cozy. And moving on to the fit of the headset, it fits really well. It's got these clicky notches and they're also numbered, so you know where your perfect fit is. Another thing that helps with the fit is these really padded ear cups I mentioned earlier. They're so well padded that they just like press against your ear well enough that this headset won't fall off or it won't swivel around too much when you're gaming. There is one downside though. The clamping force on this headset is really weak, like really weak. It's so weak that there have actually been times where I've bent over to pick something up that fell or anything I needed to pick up, and this thing has fell off my head twice. Like literally fallen off, not just slid down a little bit, it fell to the ground. Now, if you're only using these for gaming, you probably won't find yourself in that predicament that often. But if you're one of those people that wants to pull this thing off, you want to connect this via Bluetooth to your phone, which a lot of people will. I mean, that is one of the features of this headphone. Then you might want to take that into consideration. You don't want to walk around and have to do everyday tasks where you might accidentally drop these off your head when you're picking something up. Now, despite the lack of clamping force, this headset still has one of the best fits I've ever experienced. And I think one of the biggest reasons for that is just how flexible these ear cups are. I've never seen so much movement on a gaming headset ear cup. Honestly, these things move around when I'm just carrying this thing with my hand, but you can see the ear cup swivels 90 degrees one way and then almost like 45 degrees the other way, and it's got the little, this swivel right here. I don't even know what you call that, vertical swivel? It's got everything. Okay, moving on to audio quality and performance. This time we're not just going to critique the audio quality of the headset, we're also going to critique the Hypersense and how it interacts with the audio, because that is a major selling point of this headset. And before we do that, just a few general notes on how the audio quality works and how to get the best audio quality on this headset. Now, I tried everything. I tried this in every way I could with all the games, and unfortunately, this headset does not perform its best with 3D audio enabled. You gotta disable 3D audio and you have to use Dolby instead of linear PCM. It's unfortunate that the Kaira Pro doesn't take advantage of the Tempest 3D audio engine, but to Razer's credit, they never promoted this or marketed this as a 3D audio headset. So definitely go ahead, disable 3D audio and use this with Dolby. But if you want to try to use it with 3D audio, let me know what your results are. Do you think it performs better with 3D audio when you use it? Because to be honest, sound can be subjective in a lot of ways, and a lot of times maybe to someone else their 3D audio experience with this headset will be better than what mine was, but to me the Dolby was the best way to experience it. And when you're playing games on this with Dolby activated, it gives you a really nice rich sound. It's not the most crisp, it's not meant to be. It's meant to be a more gamer-centric sound where the lower end and the higher end is a little more exaggerated. It's that V-shape EQ. But the good news is that there are multiple EQs built in to this headset. There are multiple EQ presets that you can switch between with this button right here, including an FPS mode. So don't you worry, if you want to play competitive gaming, they do have options for that. So the first game I played with this was Ghost of Tsushima, and I gotta say that I had the Hypersense activated all the way up. There's 3 levels of Hypersense, which is probably weak, medium, and strong, and I was playing with strong on. And in Ghost of Tsushima, you'll notice that it activates quite often. There are a lot of low frequency sounds, and I've noticed that the Hypersense activates whenever there are quite a few low frequency sounds, like sounds that are meant to be bassy, like explosions, or something that's really loud, like gunfire in games like Warzone. Now, I will say this, the Hypersense feature made me appreciate the sound design in Ghost of Tsushima that much more, just because you can feel it when things like distant thunder rumbles. You can hear the Hypersense activate from wherever the thunder is coming from. Initially, I wasn't sure how particular the Hypersense would be. I didn't know if it was just going to be like your left ear cup rumbling or your right ear cup rumbling, but in fact there is quite a bit of directionality or positioning to it, so wherever it's coming from you will sort of get the effect from that area, and there are different strengths. So if it's further away, the sound isn't as loud, you won't get the same sort of feedback as if something was really close to you. At the high strength, you can even feel it when Jin Sakai is running on different surfaces. For example, on wooden surfaces it would activate more, whereas if you're running on a mountain, on grass fields, it wouldn't activate as much. Of course, this has all to do with the sound design of the game as well, and how the sound engineers decide to take care of different sound effects and just different sounds in the game. Maybe even the music might activate it, which is a little problematic, and we're actually going to get into that because there is a game I tried that, because of the music, sort of made me not want to use the Hypersense on this headset for that game. So initially I also wasn't sure whether the Hypersense was something that was made in conjunction with the PS5, because this was the first time I actually heard about Hypersense, even though Razer actually has a headset and probably has several headsets with Hypersense already built into it before the PS5, such as the Razer Nari Ultimate. But before I found out about that headset, I was curious whether this was built in conjunction with PS5 or with Sony so that they could implement it in games in sort of some intelligent way. But it turns out it's really not that. It's just something that's sort of takes in your surround sound audio and pinpoints certain frequencies, or probably just certain sounds that are associated with certain things like explosions or gunfire or just loud rumbling, and it activates based on that. However, in certain games it's just not usable. For example, in Warzone, when I had it set to even the medium strength or the high strength, it would activate with every gunshot. It would activate anything, and grenades is fine, but when it activates with every gunshot, you're running around, it's just rumbling the whole time. And in a game like Warzone and any other shooter where positional audio is so important to figuring out where the enemy is, it sort of just works against you in many ways. It just becomes an annoyance. It sort of becomes an obstruction. With that being said though, I did want to point out that the positional audio on this is not bad, but it's also not the greatest that I've ever heard. And this is where I'm talking about the SteelSeries Arctis 7P does a better job in a game like Warzone when you're trying to pinpoint where the enemy is. For whatever reason, I thought this would definitely outperform the Arctis 7P. I thought, you know, they had thought of everything, but for whatever reason in Warzone it didn't. However, the overall experience, aside from Warzone, has been good so far. But yeah, going back to how much sound design really matters in Ghost of Tsushima, because some of the sounds are so deep and bassy, even when there's dialogue, some of the dialogue, for whatever reason, is in the lower end of frequencies, and it causes the Hypersense to activate, which is kind of weird. I didn't think that would be a situation I would have to deal with, but it is something that happens. And if you have this set to the high strength and you're listening at a relatively high volume, that might start bothering you after a while. Now, there are a few games that this headset performs phenomenally in, and one of them is Ratchet & Clank. When I was playing Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart with this headset, I thought the Hypersense was literally designed for that game. It worked so perfectly. Anything that's going on around you, certain things like when you smash boxes, you will hear exactly where, you will feel the Hypersense rather, exactly where the box was smashed. When you're fighting enemies, the positional Hypersense on this is really good in that game. It works in tandem with everything. When the dialogue is happening, you don't hear the rumbling in a weird way, or it doesn't activate based on nonsensical things like dialogue or simply walking around. There's subtle activations that just feel really nice in that game, like when you're opening up riffs or based on the soundtrack. It honestly almost feels like they designed the Hypersense based on that game, but obviously they've had Hypersense in other headsets, so I'm pretty sure that's not the case. Now, here's another game that had me questioning the integration of Hypersense in this headset, and that is Returnal. Returnal is just such a noisy game by design. I thought because it's a single player experience, story driven experience, and because of all the sound effects, it might actually perform well with the Hypersense, but when I started playing it and I tried to adjust all the sound settings the best way I could to try to get Hypersense to activate in a way that's not overwhelming or annoying, but with Returnal it's just constantly going off. And if you have it at the lowest setting, you could probably get some sort of enjoyable experience with it, but because Returnal has just so many sound effects going on, it's almost always trying to activate from many different directions at the same time, and it doesn't really add to the experience more than it hinders it. Because again, Returnal is another game where positional audio is important. It's a bullet hell shooter. It's a third-person shooter where enemies are all around you. It seems like the Hypersense experience is good for certain games, but when it comes to shooters and multiplayer, competitive multiplayer games, just as you would turn the rumble off in your controller because it's a distraction, you will probably turn Hypersense off because it is definitely a distraction and will affect your performance in first-person shooters or third-person shooters, any shooters where directional audio is of utmost importance. But with these downsides, there are also some phenomenal upsides, and this next game I'm going to talk about, I don't normally play this, but I had a hunch that it would be a good experience with this headset, and turns out it was probably my favorite experience with this headset with the Hypersense enabled, and that was Dirt 5. Now, it can get a little overwhelming in the game menus because when the music is playing Hypersense, it's constantly being activated, but you can probably just reduce the menu music volume, but during the races is when it works so perfectly. Because Dirt 5, you know, it has different tracks with different textures, you're driving on different terrains. All these different terrains have a different effect on the Hypersense. There's subtle rumbling from the haptic feedback, but where the biggest impact I felt was from the literal impacts in the game. Like when a car rams into you from a certain direction, the haptic feedback, the Hypersense activates in that specific direction. It sounds incredible. It almost feels, it adds that extra level of immersion that this headset is trying to accomplish, and it does it with flying colors. If you hit into a barricade or something, you feel it with this headset. And because Dirt 5 has DualSense capabilities and it actually uses the DualSense haptic feedback really well, you get that DualSense haptic feedback in conjunction with the Hypersense haptic feedback. It's just such a great experience. If you manage to get these headphones, I really recommend you try Dirt 5. Okay, that's it for the audio quality test. Moving on to the mic test.
Okay, so this is the mic test for the Razer Kaira Pro for the PS5. We're using the boom mic right here. The headset actually has two sets of mics. So the first mic is this boom mic right here. The volume is good. It's at 60% right now, which I think is ideal for this mic. It's very even sounding. You don't hear a lot of pops. It's not going to exaggerate your P's and Q's, the plosives, or anything like that. It comes with a pop filter already applied to it, which I think is ideal. Just keep it on there. You don't need to take it off. You can hear the compression on this mic. I feel like it's a little stronger than what I hear on other headset mics, but at the same time, for most gaming headset mics, you're always going to hear a little bit of compression. Ultimately, because of the even sounds and the fact that it doesn't exaggerate a lot of consonants, I think I prefer this mic over a lot of other gaming headset mics. It even has good noise cancellation. For example, when I'm typing, you may hear a little bit of it, but you don't really hear it that much. The only time you would hear it if I was going crazy, and I don't think I'm ever going to type like that. Actually, sometimes I do. I take that back. But it doesn't end right there because this headset has a secondary mic, a built-in mic. If you remove the boom mic,
it automatically activates the built-in mic, which is pretty cool. It's great for if you want to walk around, you just want to listen to music, you want to go out, you can have this connected via the USB-C dongle to your phone. If you get a call, you can pick up calls with it. Personally, I would not prefer to use this mic for gaming, and so this is the built-in mic. And the difference in sound quality is immediately apparent. This one is much harsher, it's not as soft, it's not as pleasant sounding. It's also louder, and I'm pretty sure it's because they increased the gain to compensate for the fact that the mic is not right in front of your face, and it also just doesn't cancel out a lot of noise, if any at all. For example, here's me typing on the keyboard once again. So would I recommend this one for gaming? Probably not, but if you really want to be cool like me and you don't want to have a boom mic in front of your face or an airline pilot mic in front of your face, you can still communicate with your friends this way. However, I do think they will appreciate you using the boom mic because they won't hear the background noises as much and it'll be easier to communicate. You'll be easier to listen to. Quick note before we move on about the sound quality of the Kaira Pro. Once again, it's a great sound experience. You will enjoy playing whatever games you play with this headset, but when it comes to positional audio and just the overall feel of the sound does feel like there is a larger sound stage in headphones like the SteelSeries Arctis 7P, and it's just better positionally. When you're playing FPS games, you might have a better experience with the SteelSeries Arctis 7P as opposed to this headset. For whatever reason, the Arctis 7P edges the Kaira Pro out when it comes to competitive FPS shooters, as well as just feeling like an overall larger soundscape, an overall larger sound stage. So is this the true Arctis 7P killer? Well, it does have quite a few things that the Arctis 7P doesn't. So let's go on to the features. Let's find out what this headset is packing. Quickly going over the features, the frequency range for this headset is 20 Hz to 20,000 Hz or 20 Hz to 20 kHz, which is fairly standard for wireless console gaming headphones. We've got a 32 ohms impedance, which is also fairly standard, but is also on on the high end for wireless console gaming headphones, so that's good news. But we also have 50mm titanium drivers, which is relatively large. The SteelSeries Arctis 7P actually only has 40mm drivers, and quite a few console gaming headphones, actually quite a few that I've reviewed that I've really liked, only have 40mm drivers. So having 50mm drivers allows you to have sort of a larger feeling sound. And then we have the Hypersense, the built-in haptics. Quickly, what you get in the box is the headset itself, and then we have a supercardioid detachable mic. We have a USB-A to USB-C charging cable, and that is a very important cable because it is the only one that fits in the charging port for this headset. For whatever reason, I don't know what it is, if it's a design flaw or just the way this USB-C port is recessed, but the little housing around it just doesn't allow for most USB-C cables to get plugged in. At least the ones I've tried don't go in. The only one that goes in is the one that came with the headset. So take really good care of that cable. It's actually braided and it feels very high quality, so I'm sure it'll last a long time. And finally, we have a USB-A to USB-C female extension cord, so you can plug in your USB-C dongle far away from the console. You can plug the extension cable in the back and then plug the USB-C dongle to that if you want the front I/O of the PS5 to just be really clean, or if you just want to use it for something else. Okay, starting off with the buttons and scroll wheels and sliders or switches on the left ear cup. First, we have the mic mute and unmute button. Then we have the volume scroll wheel, which is an infinite scroll wheel. It goes up and down infinitely, which means it is software controlled. Fortunately, this headset does not have a 3.5mm jack, so if you want to stream on your PS5, you can stream on your PS5, but if you want to stream your PS5 gaming via a capture card to your PC, like the Elgato capture card, then you will have issues. You won't be able to stream because you need to have a wired connection for that. Then we have the power button that also doubles as a play pause button when you have your headset connected via Bluetooth, or if you have your USB-C dongle connected to your PC or any other device. We have the USB-C port for charging, and then we have the 3.5mm jack that is actually only for the supercardioid detachable mic. You can try using it to have a wired connection with your controller or for anything for audio. It's not going to work. Okay, starting off on the right ear cup, we have this button right here that serves two purposes. First purpose is cycling between your EQ presets. So if you single press this, it'll cycle between your EQ presets. The second purpose is if you double tap this, it automatically switches between your console to whatever Bluetooth device you have it connected to, like your phone. It doesn't automatically do it. You have to double press this. There are certain headsets where you can connect to both at the same time simultaneously, and you can listen to both at the same time. So you can play music through your phone if you want to while playing games. You can't do that here. You have to double press this button to switch back and forth between the two. Now, it will actually automatically switch to your phone. If you turn your console off, it'll automatically switch to your phone, but you can't listen to both simultaneously. Next, we have the scroll wheel right here, which is a side tone scroll wheel. Finally, the last button we have on the right ear cup is the Hypersense button down here. It toggles between the 3 levels of Hypersense and whether you want it on or off. Now, the one thing that bothers me about the Razer Kaira Pro and just the Razer ecosystem is to have access to all the functionality of this headset. You don't have to download one app, but 2 apps. The first being the Razer Audio app, mainly to adjust the custom EQ setting. There isn't much you can do in either of these apps, but you can adjust the custom EQ setting to whatever you desire. There is a do not disturb toggle if you want to make sure you don't get bothered by phone calls coming through your phone when you're playing with the Kaira Pro. You can turn the RGB on and off in this app, which is really weird because the second app you need is the Razer Chroma RGB app, and that app will let you adjust and customize the RGB and how it behaves. Now, I'll be honest, although I do enjoy RGB on a headset, it's not something I look forward to. It's not something I seek out. There are quite a few RGB headsets that look a little tacky, but then there are some that look good, and in this instance, I gotta be honest, I do appreciate Razer, but I'm not the biggest fan of their logo as an RGB logo. I would have liked if they just did some kind of like generic design for the RGB or do something more with it, you know? It's sort of just feels like it's there for the sake of being there. Yeah, so I'm not a fan of the extra apps bloating my phone. One app would have been one too many for me already, so having 2 is just annoying. It's too many apps on my screen. I already have too many apps. I'm trying to reduce the space, the storage being used on my phone. I'm not trying to increase it, but I'm sure there's a way Razer can just implement both of those in one app. Personally, I would just make the adjustments I want on the headphones, and then I'll just delete the apps once I'm done, so long as the changes continue to take effect. And the USB-C dongle for this headset is really cool too. It's actually really similar to the SteelSeries Arctis 7P and 7P Plus, but they did one thing that actually makes it probably the best USB-C dongle on any headset, and that is that they shifted the USB-C port to one side of the dongle, so when you plug it into your PS5, it actually doesn't block the other USB-A port, which is something you can't do with the SteelSeries Arctis 7P or 7P Plus dongle. If someone really just wants to connect it directly to their PS5, now they can do that without it being some sort of hassle, or without them figuring out some sort of workaround where they actually are forced to use the USB-A to USB-C female extension cable so they don't block another port. However, if you do end up plugging it in the other way, you completely block off the USB-A port. And finally, the battery life of this headset is incredible. It's rated to last 20 hours with the RGB chroma RGB on, and 50 hours without it on. 50 hours, that is incredible. I haven't done any battery life tests, but I'll take their word for it because it has lasted quite long already. It's only at 46%, and I've probably been testing this for quite a while, maybe a week here and there. Now moving on to the price, the Razer Kaira Pro for the PS5 retails for $249.99 Canadian dollars, which is 250 Canadian dollars. It's not very widely available just yet. I'm waiting for it to populate in stores. It's not really easy to find just yet. I had to get this directly from Razer's website. It is relatively pricey. But rightfully so. I don't think there's a single PS5 specific headset or just console gaming headset that you can find that has the USB-C and Bluetooth connectivity for below 300 Canadian dollars. So the fact that this is 250 Canadian dollars, while it is a little more expensive than quite a few headsets that I can recommend for PS5, it is within its means. I mean, it offers features that you can't get anywhere else, even like the Hypersense haptic feedback. We have 50mm titanium drivers. We have the foam fabric ear cups, which actually you would probably find more often on audiophile ear cups than you would on gaming headset ear cups. This combo of the pleather with the foam fabric, really well padded. And on top of that, you get the RGB lighting, which again is not a necessary feature, but it is a good to have feature. It's a value added feature that you don't find on many cheaper headphones. Okay, moving on to the design, a very simplified design, the white and black aesthetic that goes and matches with the PS5, which is what this is intended to be used with. I never really thought I would see RGB on a dedicated PS5 headset, but here we are. In my opinion, this is the perfect ear cup design. It goes all around your ear. It's got the leather and fabric combo, as I've mentioned numerous times already. We also have the signature PlayStation blue, the blue that is associated with and is synonymous with PlayStation inside the ear cups. I love the white headband here with the Razer branding. The only thing I wish they would have done away with is these silver notches right here. For whatever reason, companies like to do this. They like to add those silver notches to indicate that this is a premium version of a headset or any other accessory. I just don't like it. I don't like that look. I would prefer that it would be all white. I would actually have preferred the ear cups to be white as well, but I understand why they went with the black and white combo, because the middle of the PS5 is black and it just adds a little bit contrast to the headset as well. Overall, this is a really great design. My one big gripe with this again is this super cardioid detachable mic. And I'm not saying that this headset should have just a built-in mic. I'm saying that they definitely could have thought of a better mic design for this headset. I suspect that they had to have a detachable mic because they couldn't fit it in the headset because they have so much other stuff in it, like the haptic feedback and the RGB lights and the giant battery. Okay, moving on to the pros and cons, the good and the bad. Starting off with the good, we've got the unique feature offerings like Hypersense. I know it's not a necessity, but it makes games a lot more enjoyable. It's perfectly on brand with PS5's DualSense haptic feedback. It's not as nuanced and as detailed as PS5's DualSense, but it is relatively detailed nonetheless. And while it may not work for select games, it definitely adds another layer of immersion in certain games like Dirt 5, Ratchet & Clank. I feel like I wouldn't want to play those games without this headset now, just because it just works so perfectly. If I didn't know any better, I would have thought this was an official PS5 design, but we know it's not that. The next thing is the comfort. This thing is actually very comfortable, although it has a standard headband design. The fact that I can put my hood over this headband as opposed to other elevated headband designs is a thumbs up for me. Now, your mileage may vary depending on how big your hood is, but for me, this is perfectly fine. The next thing is the color and design. Now, of course, Design is subjective, but for me, I really like what they did with this headset. The white and black contrast, looking like a reverse Oreo, basically like the PS5. The next is the inclusion of Bluetooth to be able to switch between your console and your phone or whatever other Bluetooth device you want to connect it to. Of course, this could have been implemented better the way it was implemented on the Turtle Beach Stealth 700 V2 or Gen 2, where you could simultaneously connect to both and listen to both. This is a rare but welcomed feature, and the fact that it's implemented is good enough. And finally, it's the USB-C dongle design. The fact that it's offset to one side so it doesn't block off the USB-A port. It's such a simple solution that works for a common problem. Okay, that's the good. Let's talk about the bad. First and foremost, it's the price. Now, I did mention earlier that the price is relatively reasonable for what you get here, but it is also a little pricey for what you get when it comes to sound quality. Now, don't get me wrong, the sound quality is not bad for a wireless console gaming headset. However, when you have a headset like the SteelSeries Arctis 7P that retails for $189.99 Canadian, actually, that's the Arctis 7P Plus. It retails for $189.99 Canadian dollars on Amazon. For whatever reason, that is a $60 price difference for a headset that doesn't match the sound quality of a cheaper headset. Of course, it has a lot of other features to make up for it, but when the positional audio in a headset like the Arctis 7P is better than the positional audio in this, it makes it difficult to recommend for people who want to enjoy, even if people want to enjoy regular single-player games or other games that aren't first-person shooters, but they also play first-person shooters from time to time. You want to get the headset that will overall benefit you the best. The next thing is the detachable mic. I really do feel like they could have came up with a better alternative than this. It just looks hideous, and with a detachable mic, you always have the possibility of losing this thing. Now, thankfully, if you do lose it, at least you have a built-in mic that you can use as a backup, but even aesthetically, it just looks terrible having this detachable mic on the headset once you have such a beautiful piece of equipment right here. I know it's a little nitpick, but come on, give us something nice looking. The next thing is the USB-C port. I don't know what their thought process was when they made this housing for the USB-C port, but for whatever reason, other USB-C cables don't fit in there. And finally, the lack of 3.5mm audio jack. Now, this isn't a game breaker for a lot of people. It's only a game breaker if you want to stream through a game capture card through your PC. You're probably not going to be able to use this because you need a wired connection for that. Ultimately, I think this headset will be a great option to pair with your PS5 if you like good sound quality, but you're not specifically looking for positional audio for FPS games. If you want a great experience, this will give you a great audio experience. If you want your headset to match your PS5 in aesthetics, this thing does that in flying colors. You could even change the RGB to a static blue if you want it to match in every single way to your PS5. And finally, if you like having the extra features like the RGB or the Hypersense, that actually added a level of immersion for me for certain games, so there's definitely some value there. Or if you benefit from the quick connect, the Bluetooth and wireless connectivity so you can connect to your phone if you get a call while you're gaming. And if you're okay with the $250 Canadian dollar price point, which is not the highest, but it's also not the lowest, there are some really good contenders out there for positional audio quality that are priced lower than this headset. You're basically covered on all fronts with this headset, aside from the 3.5mm audio jack or the best positional audio in the market for PlayStation 5. If you're good with that and you think this headset is for you, I've left a link in the description where you can go ahead and check it out. That's it for me. I'll catch you in the next one. Picsoleated has Hypersense.